Hey yo, what is up, everybody? Coach Chad here, the CEO of the Next Level Coaching Academy, and we have a very special guest for you guys. Her name is Jen Richards, and she is NLCA's first 100K a month earner. And when I say that, I mean collected. We've had people in the past hit 100K contracted, but we have never had a client hit a 100K collected in one singular month. And she is here to talk about that feat. So let's freaking do the damn thing. Oh,
How are you?
Oh, now I can.
Okay,
Is
cool.
that legitimately your background, or is this?
Oh my God. No, this is so funny. I just got off a one-on-one with Terrence and he was like, "What are you like in England?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I just kept talking and he was like, "You're actually serious?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I thought it was a background. It was like fake."
You are in Europe, though, right?
Yeah. We're in the UK right now. Yeah.
Crazy, crazy. How is it?
It's been fun. We had a wedding yesterday, so we're recouping today.
Nice. What cities have you gone to?
We went to Paris first, and then we went to Edinburgh, which is weird because the Queen died while we were there, which is
Oh my
very.
God, that's
And
nuts.
then I know. And then we got here last Friday. We're in like Cambria. It's like very tiny town. We're not really exactly sure where we're at, but in the UK somewhere.
Okay, this is like England, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. I've only been to England once, and I went to London for a few days, and then went to like the farm country. I don't know if you're
Yeah.
in the farm country right now, but it's like
Yeah.
super
We're in,
pretty.
yeah, it's beautiful out here. It's just like very tiny. Just
Yeah,
chilling.
or all like when I went, I think I went in like July, but like all the flowers were bloomed and like it was like super pretty.
Yeah. It's beautiful out here. It's cool.
Cool. Well, hey, we're just gonna dive right in. Is that cool with you?
Yeah. Let's get it.
Let's do it. So I already did an intro separately, so I just hit record right when you came in. All this will be a part of the podcast. Who really cares, anyways? But I already introduced you in the introduction. But if you want to give yourself a little introduction, let's do it.
All right. Well, I'm Jen Richards. I've been with NLCA since last February. So came in with not very much going on, a couple, 3 or 4 clients. And now we're, I think, a team of 12 now. And we're having some pretty good success, I would say.
100%. I already told them your big milestone, and I actually, if you see me looking off to my left, I have like a list of questions for you. And we're not going to talk a whole lot about NLCA. I only have one question about NLCA. I'm just curious mostly about like the mindset that it took to get here. So let's do it. Obviously, you hit your big milestone of 100K collected. My first question, not very deep, but how does it feel? How does it feel that you made $100,000 in literally 31 days?
That's wild. It's just crazy to think about. It's just crazy for me to think about because obviously working in the medical field and making pretty good money. And I'm like almost, making like over double what I would make in a normal month. So it's insane to me. It's
That's
just crazy.
crazy. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Did you ever think you would achieve this?
No, I don't. I mean, not, I mean, if I put my mind to something, like I'll do it no matter how long it takes. Like it took me like 10 years to get my pro card and I was less like, let's go. I'm going to just keep doing it. But I didn't think it would happen like this fast, I guess. I mean, like in a little over a year and a half, like, because I struggled so much trying to start my business, that I was just like, man, I'm just not cut out for this. But it was just not that I wasn't cut out for it. I just didn't have the right help. And
Mm.
now that I've got that, it makes it possible.
Was this even a goal of yours to make $100,000 in a month?
No, but I mean, I don't think so. I didn't think it was like really possible. My goal was originally, hey, I just want to make an extra 10K a month. I just want to take some stress off my medical job and, just be able to do whatever we want and not have to be like, oh, we can't take time off because we're, not making that paycheck. And then getting into NLCA and then the first month I was like 10K. I'm like, okay, so maybe it's a little bit bigger than that. And then it was like, oh, maybe I'm gonna not do my medical job, which was never even my thought. Like I wasn't thinking like that at all. So that I
Mm.
don't think it was a goal. But now I think the goal keeps getting bigger and bigger. I asked my husband, we're like, when does it end? And I'm like, I don't know.
Well, that's because you love the process. You love the game. I'm gonna dive right in. We're gonna get deep right away. So it's a couple easy surface level questions. We'll get
Yeah.
deep right away. What kind of person did you have to become to make $100,000 in one month?
Um, I would say kind of a selfish person in the sense of really like taking what I needed to do, showing up, putting a lot of work in. I think it just yes, you can have the drive and things like that, but it really takes you like being like, this is what it takes and I'm going to do it. And if people don't agree with what you're doing, then you're just going to have to be okay with that, because it's a lot of work. Like, I work way more than I ever have, but it's fun. It's like you want to put in the work. And so it doesn't seem like it's like a bad gig, even though you're like putting in like 10, 12, 15-hour days.
Define selfish, because I think I know what you mean, but I think some people won't know what you mean.
Just selfish with time and what it, and understanding like boundaries, and work isn't important and you've got stuff to do. And yes, you've got to like make time for other people. But it's a little bit of time, it's not as much time as maybe you would want. So selfish in like the aspect of like time management, boundaries, and then having people around you understand what your goal is and being on board with that too. And, even if it's for a short period of time, to come out on the other side and, be in a better place.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you correctly, selfish means you have to give up things that don't serve your specific ultimate goal and mission. You mentioned they're getting people on the same page. I know you're in a relationship. I know a lot of people struggle with, one person's an entrepreneur, the other person's not an entrepreneur. How did you get Darren on the same page, if that's what you were even talking about?
Yeah, I think initially it was just kind of a side gig, obviously. And then once it started evolving, he wanted to become more involved in it as well, because he was like, wow, this could be very successful. So he's very on board with it, and he knows it takes a lot of work. And I'm a workhorse. So sometimes, he's got to get on board with that aspect. But with time and just the success that you have, it makes it obviously our relationship a little bit better, because we're both like, okay, this is fun. Let's do it. It's working. And so I think we're a little bit closer because of that.
And for the individual who's struggling with that right now, right, who wants to be the entrepreneur, but maybe there's opposing forces, what would your recommendation be to that person? Like, what kind of conversation can they have with that individual to get them bought in?
I think it's just having those hard, uncomfortable conversations where, it's like, making them understand like what your vision is and why it's important to you. And wanting, like, just letting them know like, hey, I want you to come with me on this journey, but like, this is what it's going to look like. And, are you on board, or are you kind of like not on board? I think it's having that tough conversation. Most people don't want to have that conversation. They're just kind of like, what do I do? I don't, like, this person doesn't even want to spend time with me. And that's not it. It's just like, you've got a big vision and a big goal and a mission, and you're like, this is awesome. I want you to come, but like, let me know if you're on board or not.
Yeah, 100%. Truth first, right?
Yeah.
Caitlin and I have gone through very similar things. Obviously, she owns her own business, so she gets it a little bit. But there was a point where she didn't get it, and she wasn't as into her business as she is right now. And I think also just staying persistent in your pursuit, right? Like in the beginning, she might have thought like, "Oh, this is just a game for Chad." But once she saw that I would continue to commit to this, that's when she also submitted and bought in as well, which is super cool. Getting back to the selfish piece really quickly, and then we'll tie this up and go to the next question. What are some things that you had to give up? So I think some people don't understand like to the level of sacrifice that you have to make to achieve $100,000 a month. And maybe some people are deciding if this should be their goal or if this should not be their goal. What are some things that you had to sacrifice?
I think, and this is kind of a cliche, I guess, because obviously big into bodybuilding, fitness, and things like that. I'm still obviously doing all those things, but that was a big thing for me. Like even this year, just like what it took. I wanted to have, do my pro debut. I got my pro card last year. So I was like, all right, let's go. But there's just not enough time, and it had to be, I can't have, you can't have both and be successful as you want to be at both, because what one is going to take way more time. And so for me, that's something that was hard, because I was like, I can do this. I can do, my routine practice, my cardio, my lifting. I can take, 10 sales calls a day. And it's like, there's literally not enough time. So that was something for me. And then just like, time in general, like with friends and even like family sometimes, because, you've got working and you're working on the weekend, and it just isn't that easy just to turn it on and turn it off. So I think that also is something that's been a little bit tough, but I think family has come up. They're always been supportive for sure. They just, they didn't understand what it took. So they're just like, I don't understand why she's working so much, or that kind of thing. So I think that time in that aspect, because you have to work on the weekend. I mean, you don't have to, but I think to be super successful, you can't just do Monday through Friday and shut it off and then come back Monday. Like, it's got to be, you're putting in the time.
All the time. Yeah. Even when you're at dinner, it's like, oh shit, do I have that message? I get it. I mean, heck, I even got like fat for a minute because I gave up my fitness so much, but I'm back on the train. So I get the sacrifices necessary. Polar opposite of that question. Obviously, you made a lot of sacrifices. There's things that you get in return. Obviously, money's one of them, but what are some other things that you've gotten in return as a result of those sacrifices?
Yeah, I think sounds catch 22 because I'm working more, but like time doing what I want to do, not, building something for myself versus building something for somebody else. Because my medical job, I loved it. I love seeing patients. And I love my job. I didn't like it, but it was just like, nah, I wasn't growing what I wanted to grow. So it was like day in and day out, I was kind of like, okay, I've got to show up and do this thing without feeling like 100% appreciated. Like, unless you're like at the top of your game, which I was, because I'm like really competitive. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna be the best. But then you get there and then you're like, okay, now I'm here. Now, like, what's next? So I think like growing my business was like the next step for me and in my life. And I'm like, working from home now and just spending time with my dogs and just being at home and like having the capacity to do kind of whatever I want to do or go wherever I want to go. I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, you're in Europe right now. Are you working there, or are you just
Oh
is
yeah.
this just play?
Oh yeah, right. Now I'm working. I've
Nice.
had days that are like work, and we've cut out like, 4 to 6 hours, and then other days there's been no work. So, you know, it's
Yeah.
been kind of depending.
We'll
Yeah.
we'll push pull. What's funny in your animation? I can hear the birds chirping, like the animation background. I didn't know if that was legit or if it was the thing, but I think it's the thing. All right,
No,
so
this
I've
is
go
it's not
ahead.
a fake background.
Yes, it is. That's fake.
This is not fake. I'm really I'm really,
Oh, I thought that was a fake background.
no, 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 no. This
Oh
is
my
like
God, it looks artificial.
I know. I'm really, that's what I told you at the beginning. Terrence thought the same thing. No,
Oh, okay. I was still so convinced that that was fake.
no,
Wow.
it's
All right.
real.
It looks beautiful there. That's awesome. Um, all right. So I've only asked literally two questions. I know I come up with questions like randomly. So next one I got here is looking back on the 1.5 years it took to get to this point. What are like the 2 to 3 key moves that you made that you think have led to this success? And you can't say hiring NLCA. So like once you were within NLCA.
Okay. Um, I think it's just who you surround yourself with, honestly, because I was surrounding myself with different people before. And I think the who you're like spending the most time with, I think that's been a big game changer. I know Kayla and I have become really, really close. And I think that's one of the things. And having people that you're surrounded with that are doing the same thing and understand like what's going on and having that support, I think has been a game changer. Because when I was growing my business before, I didn't really have that support. It's kind of like doing it on your own, but you didn't really know what you're doing. So I have a community and a culture that you actually want to be involved in and like want to be in and want to grow in. I think that has been really important because I know I've changed a lot. I mean, I'm always, growing and changing, I feel like, as we're getting older, but I feel like in the last kind of like year and a half, I've done a lot of growth, like personal growth, and just kind of gain like not really caring what other people think I should be doing. Jen,
Mm.
why are you not in the working in the medical field anymore? You went to med school, you did all these things. And it's like, well, I'm not doing that right now. And I'm being successful at something else. So I think that I've gained throughout the time. What was the question again?
So far, we have finding a community that supports your vision, 2 to 3 key moves that have led to your $100,000 collected month.
And I think, yeah, I mean, I think it's just giving up things that, for what I want to do right now for like this growth. Like I said, just like spending the time doing it because I work like way more than I ever have. So I think it's just like, doing the hard work to get to where you want to be. And before I've always been a hard worker, but it's like a different type of work because like I said, you're working to grow your own business. And so it just takes a different amount of commitment. So yeah, I think giving up a lot of time doing stuff that I used to do like this thing.
Sacrifice and community. We haven't talked about it yet, but obviously you're a coach in NLCA as well, so I think that plays into the community aspect. But completely random, actually, not on my list of questions. Whoops, hit the microphone. It took you a while to quit your medical job. Obviously, you're making obscene amounts of money comparative to your medical job. There's a lot of individuals out there that are scared to leave their job to go and commit full time to online fitness. You could have done it many moons ago, but didn't make the plunge. Why do you think you didn't do it earlier? And would you go back and quit earlier if you could?
Yeah, I like that question. It took me a long time because I'm a numbers person. It's like something that I could like, it was like stable coming in, and I knew what I could make every month. And like, I just am like, all right, we were in a really good spot with like Darren's income and my income. And I started doing this. I was like, yeah, I'm making some money, but like, I can't just like stop and like make the jump, right? It's not just going to switch over. I've been trying to grow my business since 2015, obviously. So I'm like, well, I'm doing okay now, but like, I'm not just going to quit. So, I was more like, okay, let's just kind of like shift it and see if we could half it and just like scale kind of back. But the funny thing is I do wish I would have quit sooner, because that's when I really started to grow, even though you told me, hey, when you do this, like it's going to work. But I scaled back to part-time last July, and then this July I have, was my first month that I completely didn't work at all. And that's when I started really having the growth, when I scaled back to part-time, and I was like, okay, I'm growing. Then you hit a plateau, and it just requires so much more work, that when I was able to like not work my medical job at all and then really grind, take more sales calls, get more people, hire more people, like that's when we started to really grow. So I think, yeah, I wish I would have done it a lot sooner had I known now. Because just the time itself, I mean, yeah, we were at like, 40K months, and then we're having like 70, 100K months, like, and that's just all happened since I've completely quit my, in this past July. So
Crazy. Okay, so in July you were doing about 40K, and then from July to September you basically more than 2x'd your income since quitting your job. Is that correct?
yes.
Wow, that's crazy. Okay. And then what about the time? What about from July to July? Like when you went part-time, what was the growth there?
I'm gonna pull up my numbers. I mean, the growth was like, last July, we were at like 17K collected. We're signing like that. We signed like 3 clients like last July. And then obviously this July we were 95K contracted, 31 clients, 66K collected.
Okay. So it took 12 months to 3x your income working a part-time job, and it took 3 months to almost more than double your income with this being your full-time job. That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
that's mind-boggling. Um, all right, I think we drove that point home. Let's move on to my next question here. So, for those listening that haven't even gotten their first client yet, but want this kind of financial freedom for themselves, like the financial freedom that we're talking about, or for their family, what would you say the journey that lies ahead of them looks like? Like if you had to prepare them mentally, like what would you say?
I would just, let them know it's going to be a lot of work. I think people just don't think, it's going to be work. They're going to be like, hey, I want to own a business, and I'm just going to show up and these things are going to happen. So I think knowing that like it's going to be hard, but like the outcome is so rewarding. Like it's like not like it's going to be grind time, and you got to be okay with that. But if this is what you want, then it's completely going to be worth it. All the time that you're going to invest to get to where you want to be and have that freedom, it can happen. I mean, it's not going to happen magically, but
Mm.
you can.
And everyone says it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. What does a lot of work mean? Like, talk me through some like your hardest days.
Yeah, obviously being a coach with NLCA too. Typically with I still have clients on my roster. So getting up and like starting their day early at 5 or 6, and then sometimes I don't have boundaries with sales calls, and stuff. I'll just keep extending my schedule. Sometimes days, sorry, it's really loud.
Okay.
Some days
Still looks like a fake picture to me, but that's okay.
it's crazy. I don't even know what that is. But starting at like, 5 or 6 a.m. And then some days I'm not getting done, like even with sales calls, so like 8 p.m. And then it doesn't stop after that. I've got to like wrap up my day. Kayla's going to laugh if she listens to this, but check all my EODs for everybody and like just do the back end work. And so sometimes then I don't go to bed until like 11 or 12, and you get up and then like, you do it again. It's just like, and I like to work, and even Darren will be like, okay, it's time to shut off, like come to bed. And I'm just like, all right, I've got to get this stuff done. So some days look like that. And then obviously we're on vacation right now. So some days you can pull back, and enjoy time. But yeah, it's grind time, I think.
Mm. Is there ever a moment where you're like, what am I doing? Like, what is this?
Well, I just think it's crazy to think like a year ago, my life was like way different than it is now. And now we're able to, take a 2-week vacation. Darren's not working because he is an independent contractor with his job. So, we wouldn't be able to do that. So yeah, there's some days I'm like, is this real? Like we're in, Europe, Paris, Scotland, like doing all this stuff with our friends who actually all work for the company, traveling for 2 weeks, still working, and I'm like, what are we doing? Like, this is crazy to me.
Even your background looks fake.
Yeah.
Uh, all right, I think this is a good one. What parts of making this kind of money does the world not prepare you for?
More money, more problems. I mean, I just feel like it's, and I don't know, I'm super competitive. So, when you start making that type of money, then you just want to see how far you can go. So for me, I'm like, okay, so we did this. And then, um,
So you're
I
saying
mean,
there's never enough.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it feels like it's never enough. For sure. Because then, I feel like you reach kind of a financial goal and then you're like, oh, I did that. Okay. Like what's next? And then like, what's next? And I feel like Darren's even asked me, he's like, when does this stop? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what we want to do. I think it's exciting.
Why do you think it never stops? Like what part, like when Darren asks you that and you don't have an answer for him, like why do you think that is?
Because I always think that you can reach your goal, and then I'm always like, okay, well, what's next? Like, I don't think like some people are just like, okay, I did this thing, and they like live. They're like, I'm here, and this. I'm always like, this can't be it. Like, what's next? Like, we've got to keep like moving forward, and so I think it's exciting to think, okay, I met a goal, but like, what's the next thing we can do, and how long is it gonna take to get us there? So
Hmm.
that's why it probably doesn't end.
No, 100%. I think honestly, that's what the world is missing. I feel like or at least society currently is pushing this narrative of like comfortability and like stop at a certain point. And I feel like people like yourself are very unique, but also it's people like you that actually like make the biggest differences because you don't stop. So I think that's awesome. All right, we are going to talk about NLCA a little bit. So I haven't talked about NLCA obviously the whole podcast, but what's one thing that you think we helped you with the most on this journey?
Just meeting me where I was. That was what I was lacking. You have previous business mentorships where you're just in groups and no one's really helping you. It's just kind of like do these things. So I think for me, it was having the one-on-one, sitting down, like being like, this is where I'm at. You guys met me where I'm at. And then you gave me the roadmap of like, okay, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do next. And so like every step of the way, there was something, okay, like, all right, this is the next step. So it was like paved out for me, instead of just being thrown a whole bunch of stuff without any real guidance or like direction. So I think that was a game changer specifically for me.
Nice. Okay, so having the clear direction, having the one-to-one support specifically,
Mhm.
is what you feel like was missing previously.
Yep. Mhm.
Nice. Cool. Well, hey, I know you have a coaches meeting coming up here in a couple of minutes. I just got one last question for you. And this is kind of like our final words here. If you had to go back and change one thing, what would it be? I won't accept an answer. I wouldn't change anything. You have to change one thing. What would it be on this past year and a half?
Yeah, just quitting my job sooner. Because if I knew if I was going to quit this sooner and have the growth that I could have, I would have definitely quit it sooner. So that's something that I would have changed.
Easy answer. Where can people find you at?
Everywhere in Paris. No, I'm just yeah, my Instagram is Jenny Jean Fitness underscore FBB Pro. And then we have our Empower Instagram as well. So that's where you can find me.
All right, you guys heard it. Go give her a follow. Peace.